On today's show, we're going to take a look at plugins for Cura 4.4.1, and we're starting right now. Hey, welcome to The First Layer, the show that explores the world of 3D printing. My name's Richard and I'm your host here every Wednesday and live stream Saturday night when we answer your questions on Ask for Help. Now, today we're taking a look at Cura 4.4.1 and we're taking specifically a look at how to add in plugins for some of the things that you may want to do in Cura 4.4.1. And we're getting into it, so let's move over to the computer and we'll kind of set it up and show you exactly how to add plugins, and then we'll go over a couple of the plugins that I think you should look at first before anything else. All right, so we're over here at the computer and you can see that we have our Ultimaker Cura already set up, and if we take a look at down the side here, if we just click on where it says standard quality, we can see that we've got a whole host of different things at our fingertips that we can go ahead and change. Some of the things that you can do with this is if you're unsure of what the different things are in this menu, you can just hover over any one of the lines and it will have this little pop out. In the case of layer height, it kind of explains what layer height is and what it affects inside your print. So this is a way that you can kind of dial things in a little bit easier, but that's not what we're here to show you today. Today we're going to show you how to do those plugins. So how do you get to plugins? Well, what you want to do is you want to go up to the Marketplace tab right up here in the upper left-hand corner of the screen when you're looking, or be the upper right-hand corner, I guess. And we're just going to click on Marketplace. When Marketplace opens, it does take a moment for it to get all of the plugins in. We'll get to see exactly what's featured and what some of the community plugins are inside of Cura. Now, here we go. They've already populated for us. So the first one that I recommend to everybody, especially if you're new to 3D printing, is the settings guide. Now, this is the one that comes up in featured. It is something that's put together by Cura, and it is an in-depth explanation of what everything does and how it affects prints inside of Cura. This is more of an encyclopedia as opposed to what we used to call back in my day Cole's Notes. So if we click on that, we can see there's an install button. We're just going to go ahead and install it. Now, some of the things that we are going to install today, we're going to take a look at in further episodes here on The First Layer, because some of those things just require their own sort of episode all by themselves, and they can take quite a bit of time. So now we're going to click back. We're not going to quit Cura yet till we've put all of the plugins in that we want. The first plugin that I want to direct your attention to is the automatic slicing toggle plugin. This is a great little plugin because it will slice your model even if you're doing changes inside of Cura before you send it out to your printer. This will allow you to actually slice the model much faster. And you don't have to click that little button to slice. So we're going to install this one as well. You're just going to hit accept and then go back again. There's a few more that we want. Custom supports is a Cura plugin which enables you to add custom supports. Now, it's not quite like the custom supports that we find in other programs like Simplify 3D. This is a little bit clunky at best, but we're going to be doing an entire episode just on supports. So I want you guys to be able to have this ready when we go and start dealing with support. So we're going to install that today as well. And these are just general licenses, so we're going to include them. Now you can see there's a bunch of other ones. I want to draw your attention to linear advanced settings. If you are using one of the SKR boards or something, or a 32-bit board that enables linear advance, then this might be a setting that you may want to use. However, for our purposes today, we're just using it on a stock CR10, so we're not going to install linear advance, but I encourage you to go ahead and experiment with some of these because you can't really hurt anything. And anything that you install, you can uninstall, and I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. There's material settings here as well. We're not going to worry too much about that. But the mesh tools we are going to install. You'll see down here there's mesh tools. It adds several mesh analysis and manipulation tools. They're not super great, but they do help when you get models from places like Thingiverse that aren't quite watertight. They can certainly help and allow you to print that model in a more accurate fashion. Then there's an Octoprint connection plugin as well. So if you are running Octoprint, I'm not going to install this one today because I'm saving it for an Octoprint episode that we're going to do a little bit later on. Printer settings adds printer settings to the sidebar. We don't really need that because we're not plugging into our printer from Cura. We're not sending our files directly there. But we do want to install the Thinga browser. What this does is it gives us a direct connection to Thingiverse. So we're going to go ahead and install that one as well. And we're going to show you how powerful this can actually be. And last but not least, what I am going to do is install the Z offset settings. Now this is another plugin that will allow you to set your offset via G-code from Cura. So if you're having a little bit of problem getting your nozzle a little bit too close or not close enough to your bed, this can help out immensely. So we're going to go ahead and install that. But Z offset is a whole nother issue, and it's a video on its own. It's a little bit more than what we're going to go into today. Apologize for the cars that are going on outside. So we're going to go ahead and quit Cura. We're going to start it back up again, and I'll see you when we are there. All right, so we're back in Cura now. We've reloaded it. Let's just kind of go over some of the things that we went over in a previous video. This is where we can add printers. We can delete printers. We can make changes to our printers right here through this little printer drop-down tab. This is first one where you see the file folder. This is going to be where we can add files, STLs to our build plate, and then go ahead and slice them. Now beside that is the material and the size of nozzle that we're using. In this case, we're using PLA and a 0.4 nozzle. We're going to leave that alone. Again, if you click on the very last one, this is all your settings in Cura for the particular printer. Now, this is great, but if you're not understanding exactly what all of these things do, because as you know, in our previous video, we turned all of this stuff on. So we want to make sure that all of this stuff is available to us so that we can make changes as our knowledge grows with 3D printing and with our use of Cura. Now, where do we find the plugins that we just installed? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to go up to where it says it's extensions up here in the very top drop-down menus, and you will see here that we have our mesh tools. This is the one that we installed. We also have our settings guide, and then we have our Thingiverse browser. So first and foremost, we're going to go into the settings guide. Now, the settings guide is important for a couple of reasons. As I said earlier, the settings guide is like an encyclopedia. This has everything you need to know about Cura. If you want to dive in to a little bit more about what Cura does and how it affects your prints with the changes that you're making, you can open up any one of these drop-downs and you can see that they're identical to the drop-downs that we have here, with one exception, and that is this About. So if we drop down into the About, we can see that there is who actually put this together. And this project is maintained by Ghostkeeper. So you can see there's a little bit of information. So we're going to just close that one back up. Let's go up to quality, and I kind of show you a little bit more about how this works. So if we click on layer height, I'm going to just expand this to full screen. So if we click on layer height, you can see here that it gives us a much more in-depth information about how layer height works, along with a couple of different examples, a 0.1 millimeter layer height as opposed to a 0.2 millimeter layer height. Now, if we go down to line width, we can see how that's affected. We can also see some of the different adjustments for line widths to fit enough walls. This is something that's very important. Some people come to me and ask me, how many walls do I use? And my walls aren't coming together as good as they should be. This will give you a lot more information on that. Now, the other thing that this settings guide has is you'll find these little links, like you'll see down here. Oh, actually, my picture's in the way, so let me go. My head's in the way, so I'm just going to move this over here a little bit. And what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down, and you can see here where it says compensate wall overlaps. So if we click that, it'll take us directly to that particular entry into this sort of encyclopedia. So it's really good and to see exactly how things work together and how they affect your prints. So this is a great guide if you are diving into Cura and you really want to get into the meat of it and understand how different settings can affect the way your print is going to come out in the end. So I really recommend that this be the very first thing that you put on Cura 4.4.1. 4.4.1 is the latest version as of the recording of this video. So it is essential that this guide be installed, and it really is going to help you in the long run. It's the first place you should look for answers. If you can't find an answer there, then by all means, reach out to the First Layer or onto our Facebook page, and somebody over there might be able to help you as well. So the settings guide is a great useful tool to have as part of Cura. It's one of the things I introduce my students to when I'm teaching classes. One of the very first plugins, in fact. Now, let's go down to the Thingiverse browser. And if we just go across here to browse Thingiverse, it will open up a separate window. And in that window, we can see that right now it's coming up with just some random stuff here in the menu. So let's just do the Thingiverse robot. So what we're going to do is we're going to double click on the robot. Or pardon me, we're going to click Thingiverse right here, and we are going to go ahead and download that as soon as there we go. It's going to download for us. And once it is finished downloading, then we can go ahead and put that onto our table. So put that in our downloads, we'll save it for later. We'll close this up. I believe if we double click somewhere in here, it should automatically load that model for us. If we click the details button, it will bring us details about this particular file. And now we can see here, by looking at the details, we can see that we can add the STLs, the Ultimaker robot. So we're going to add one right to our build plane. And this is going to import that model right to the build plane. So we don't have to unzip files, we don't have to download it like we just did. And now we can just go ahead and close that. And because we installed that mesh analyzer earlier, you can see down at the bottom of our screen here that the model TMP _ Ultimaker robot support is not watertight and may not print properly. Check the X-ray view and repair the model before printing. So we can go ahead and show the X-ray view, and we'll just zoom in and bring them up. And it doesn't look like there's any real holes in this mesh. Now you will get at times false positives. So it might come up with something, but just to be on the safe side, we're going to go back away from X-ray view. We'll go back into prepare, up into our extensions, go back into those mesh tools, and we are going to fix simple holes. First, you have to select the model. Then you're going to go ahead and fix those simple holes. and it's going to go ahead and do what it has to do. It does take a few moments for it to do that, but once it's done, it should be ready to go, and we can go ahead and close up any excess dialog boxes that are open. All right, so it's finished doing its analysis. We're just going to close the old dialog box. We're ready to slice. It's going to take 39 minutes for this little guy to print. We're not going to go ahead and print them right now, but I wanted to show you how powerful that little mesh tool can be. You can go ahead and reanalyze it. It might give you a false positive again. My tongue's getting a little tied here, but it might give you a false positive again. If it does, don't worry too much about it. Try and print it and see if it does successfully print. This one I know should successfully print pretty well. It's not a difficult model. It doesn't require any support material, so you can just go ahead and print it. And at 4 grams of plastic, yeah, it doesn't take a whole lot. So we're going to close that part of it up right now. I'm going to leave that little model there. In the extensions, again, the 3 that we downloaded, and these are things that you want to take advantage of. Again, is that mesh tools, that settings guide, and the Thingiverse input as well. If you're interested in not keeping some of the plugins that you put in, let's say you started out and you just put everything in, because some people do, and then you go back and you find that it's slowed down Cura a little bit, because sometimes it does, because you've got to load all those plugins in. Well, we can go ahead and take those plugins out just by going to Marketplace and clicking on the installed. Once it populates, we're going to click on installed here, and it'll bring up all of the plugins that we installed by ourselves. So you can see here, automatic slicing toggle. If we don't want it, we can uninstall it. It is really easy for us to do just by clicking that uninstall button. Now, the ones that don't have an uninstall button, these are all parts of the program that you cannot take out. Now, you can update those parts just by going back to, we'll just close this down. You can go back to extensions, and you can go to the update checker, and you can check for updates. If you go ahead and click that, it's going to say the version, in our case, because we're most up to date, version upgrade, no new version was found. So we have the latest version of Cura 4.4.1. So that's really all there is to doing this. Well, you can see it's not hard to add plugins into Cura. We are going to explore some of those plugins in future episodes, like the custom supports and supports in general, because there's a lot to do with supports in Cura. There's a lot now that you can do that you couldn't do before. So we're going to explore that in a future video. So for right now, if you like today's video and you got something out of it, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. If you're new here, hit that like button. Go ahead, ding that little bell so you get notified every time that we do a brand new episode. And please leave me a comment if you found some of these useful in your setup for Cura at home. For now, I'm going to say thank you to Spool 3D, who does help us out with our studio space, and they do help us out from time to time with new printers that they bring in that we get to unbox and put together and show you guys. So for now, I just want to remind you that up here is our latest video, and down below is a video that YouTube thinks that might be beneficial to you. So go ahead, click on one of those, and check one of our other videos out. Until next time, my friends, the first layer is always your foundation to a great print.